There's a major lawsuit being filed that may stop frivolous lawsuits. What's this? A lawsuit to stop frivolous lawsuits? Yeah, we're going to explain what's going on and why all of us should be thrilled and hoping that this lawsuit prevails on the Dimaio Report, First Traffic.
From the San Diego.
So we've talked about lawsuit abuse on the Dimaio Report at length. It costs small businesses a ton of money because they don't have the money to hire lawyers, so they basically have these con artists, these shakedown lawyers, showing up and demanding settlement money. It's very similar to what we've examined with ADA lawsuits, where they walk in and say, look, we're going to sue you for ADA violations, but pay us $5,000 and we'll go away. And you're like, should I fix the toilet? No, doesn't matter. Just give us the $5,000. We don't care about disabled people. Well, now in California, there's a whole new creature of lawsuit, not just ADA lawsuits, but things called PAGA lawsuits, Private Attorney General Act lawsuits. And joining me on the Dimaio Report to discuss the impact of PAGA lawsuits, as well as a way to stop them, is Tom Manzo with the California Business Industry Alliance, CABIA. Tom, thanks for stopping by.
Carl, thanks for having me. I got to tell you, I am still fired up. We had a press conference today. We had a rally. We had close to 100 business owners. We're holding signs. We're causing chaos, and we're going to make a difference. This is it. This is the year.
So you're filing a lawsuit against PAGA to try to overturn it. First, let's describe what PAGA is. How does a small business or a big business or medium business, how do they get, or even a nonprofit like the San Diego Humane Society, which was hit with one of these PAGA lawsuits, how do they get caught up in a PAGA lawsuit?
Well, you have a 1,100-page labor law digest, so if you violate any of those laws, you could get into one of those. But many of them are just over a late lunch, a misclassified incentive, so very simple things, the wrong week-ending date on a paycheck.
So you basically, for example, you gave out safety bonuses to employees.
Correct.
And you were trying to reward them for doing a good job, reducing accidents and incidents, which is all great. But you got hit with a PAGA lawsuit. Why? You gave people more money.
Well, it wasn't calculated correctly into the overtime rate. So there's some very technical variations on how you distribute, a flat rate bonus, and if somebody worked more than 40 hours, then it needs to be calculated into their overtime rate. So normally, these violations, the amount that's owed to the employee is pennies, but once you add penalties on it, you could have $20 that you owe the employee and $65,000 worth of penalties.
So in your case, I love using your example. How much did the employees get versus the lawyers?
Oh, believe it or not, it's still not 100% finalized, but, on most cases, it is less than a third. It's less than a third. Because
less than a third goes to the workers, and then the other money goes to the lawyers.
Well, what happens if you were to take a $100,000 settlement, and out of that $100,000 settlement, if the attorneys were to get $50,000, so they get their money, 100% of it, then the state gets 75% of the 50, and 25% goes to the employees.
Now, this is shakedown, and as a result, I know some small businesses have been forced out of business, and others have had to lay people off because they take a financial hit, and then others have obviously raised prices. So you are suing to overturn PAGA.
Listen, this is going to be one of the best things that has happened to this state in years.
I agree.
And here's the thing. We tried the legislative route. We did our best. We tried to sit down. We tried to negotiate. We tried to work with everybody and educate. And nothing was going to get done. And we realized that. We saw it. And we said, you know what? Looking at the details and the complexity of how this law was enacted in 2003 and how things have been decided by Supreme Courts, they're not right. Guess what, guys? You got a problem. And the complaint, it's a work of art, and this is something that everybody's got to read because it will enlighten you on how laws are passed here and how things are decided, and we need to stand up. All business owners, small, medium-sized, need to stand together and say, hey, guys, enough's enough. time to make a change.
Okay, so how are you going to be able to get a judge to throw this out? What is the basis of the unconstitutionality of the PAGA law?
Well, there's several things that have some issues. Primarily when it was enacted, and Gray Davis, of course, this was his going away present. Once he got kicked out of office, what it is that statute. Really, what you're doing is you're allowing other people than the state to enforce a labor law violation. So that's how these turn into class action lawsuits. So what ends up happening is instead of it just being the one employee with the wrong, $20 figure on the gift card, now it's 100 employees, and they become the private attorney, and that attorney sues, and then they can go back 1 year, and then if they find that's unfair competition, they can go back 4 years in past employees, and instead of 100 people, it becomes 200 people. So, in reality, back then, the state they had a budget deficit. Now we have a budget surplus. Besides the budget surplus, they have a PAGA unit. They have state employees. The state needs to do their job, and they need to look into a lot of these violations, and they're not.
So, but that's a policy call. But how do you get a judge to say, "Yeah, you guys made a mistake. Let's overturn the law"?
Well, it's very interesting, and kind of technically speaking, during the Iskanian decision, they had a Supreme Court judge, and they compared it to qui tam, and qui tam is much different. So when there's a case like that, a class action or whatever, or some type of a lawsuit, the state needs to be involved.
So basically what you're saying is, in order to do this Private Attorney General Act procedure,
state needs to oversee it.
The state has to take an oversight role, and they haven't done that, and so as a result, some of those cases should be thrown out, and perhaps even the law.
They haven't done it at all. They haven't done it at all, Carl, because all of these cases, over 95% of them, end up in mediation.
Right, because it's a shakedown. Yeah, it's a shakedown. If people want to help you, Tom, because we got a jet, if people want to help you with this lawsuit and be party to the lawsuit, what's your website?
Join our cause, cabia.org, cabia.org. We're gonna make a difference. We need to stand up and stand together.
CABIA, by the way, is one of the most effective organizations because they're actually fighting. They're not taking no for an answer. I've seen other business groups claim that they're serving their members, but the only group that's fighting unfair lawsuits with real ideas, it's CABIA, cabia.org. Tom, thanks so much for stopping by.
Thanks, Carl. Bye.
Coming up, Melania Trump is...